thank you so much for tuning in and give us your time. Today we will be discussing on our last time topic because we've received feedbacks that we need to keep discussing on it. Yeah, it was a vast topic and it was obvious that we were not going to finish it in 30 minutes, but we were just touching some points. Yeah, so we'll continue on that. To remind you, the topic is on how one can manage living through the abundance of information, which can contain truth and felicity. So, yeah, we are going to continue that topic. I will start with you, Basri, and then go from there.
Okay. Yeah, hi everyone. So I think last time we stopped, we were discussing more on the responsibility that lies on individuals as well as authoritative entities in this regard, such as the media and perhaps even state controlling management or something like that. And for today, I would say more focus on the individual responsibility perhaps might be better to focus on. And in that regard, I think some of the things that I was thinking about revolves around perhaps the possibility of having more options in terms of investigating information that comes towards us nowadays, given the technologies available for us. And I think that's a very advantageous position that we're on today, given that everyone or anyone can investigate a certain point of information from different points of observation. And I think the starting point is usually, in my opinion, be focused on first investigating your own bias in that sense, especially like a good exercise for a person in this situation would be to sort of put yourself in a controversial situation, like try to think of a controversial situation and then investigate your own bias towards that situation. For example, like it could be a very controversial topic in our current world scenario, and then think about which side you incline towards in that situation. Sort of, I internalize the bias that you have, and I think that's a good baseline for any investigation that you can do towards the topic in the end. It helps to sort of clear out any disposition, such as like because whenever we try to investigate something or to examine the truth or the fact of the matter, I think one of the major problems is we fall into this confirmation bias where whenever we see something that sort of confirms whatever we believe in our heads, we sort of go towards that. So I think the first assessment should be towards our own biases. And I think it's very difficult to do that. I can understand. I myself find it very difficult because I mean it's hard to discredit your own conceptualization of a certain controversial topic. But I think it's an important starting point for any kind of assessment towards the validity or the usefulness of an information that we get nowadays, given that its content or its volume is extremely too much nowadays. So I would like to start that with that baseline, so that we can sort of get a starting point for
Great points. So I was thinking, how about we make this a bit specific, and I try to think of a scenario where would I need, for example, what would be the scenario where I'm looking for new information, and how do we put what you just said in the context of my search, for example. So let me say something about what I'm currently looking for, what I would need this kind of help, for example, where to start. Yamila Nagar. Yesterday, I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and he was telling me a few things, and I was like fascinated. This is the kind of things I would like to discover. I would like to hear more about these things. But where do I start? Where do I find those people who would give me, the good clues? I was super excited, but where do I start is a big question still. And now, so I am nowadays. I'm sure you guys have heard about this too, but there's this undiscovered የሆነ territory, especially when it comes to um, 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 ይሄ ሀገራዊ ዊዝደም የሚባለውን ነገር በጣም ፋሲኔትድ ነኝ እዛ ላይ ማለት እኛ ጋር በጣም የተከማቸ ሀገራዊ ዊዝደም አለ which is completely buried እና ሜንስትሪም እንትን ላይ አይገኝም ወይ ደግሞ ላይፍ ስታይል መቀየር አለበት ያንን ለማግኘት ይባላል ምናምን but some people tell you በጣም የተለያዩ ነገሮችን for example ትላንት የሰማሁትን maybe it could fascinate you so ምንድን ያለኝ to increase the ኢንቴሊጀንስ ኦፍ የሆነን ሰው ኢንቴሊጀንስ ከፍ ማድረግ እንችላለን ያለኝ በሆነ በቤተክርስቲያን ጥበብ ነው ያንን ማድረግ ይቻላል ብሎ የነገረኝ ልጁ እና በጣም የወደው ጓደኛው አለ ያውቃል በጣም የቤተክርስቲያን ትምህርት እንደተማረ ቅኔ ቤት ምናምን ሄዱ እንደተማረ ያውቃል ልጁ ግን አይነግረውም ብዙ እንደዚህ አይነት ነገር አያወጣም እና ምን ይለዋል የሆነ መጽሐፍ አለ ይደገማል ማለት ሞር ብዙ ይወራል እንደዚህ አይነት ነገር ግን ሞር አምነዋለሁ ከሚለው ሰው በደንብ እንደዚህ በቃ ክሬዲብል የሆነ ነገር ነው የሚያወራው ከሚለው ሰው ነው እና በደንብ ስላላየነው ነው እንጂ በጣም ብዙ ጥበቦች አሉ እና የሆነ ነገር ይደገማል አለኝ የሆነ እጽ ላይ የሆነ ተክል ላይ ነው የሚደገመው ከዚያ ነገር ሲደገም የሰውየውን ኢንቴሊጀንስ ከፍ ማድረግ ኦል ኦፍ ሰደን ቅኔ ሊዘርፍ ይችላል ያ ሰው ከሁለት ሰው ነው የሰማሁት ይሄን ነገርና በጣም ገርሞኝ ኦል ኦፍ ሰደን ተመራማሪ ሊሆን ይችላል ያ ሰው አለኝ okay this doesn't make sense at first somehow this is I mean ridiculous የሆነ ነገር ነው የሚመስለው በኋላ ምን ብሎ ገለጸልኝ ውሃ አሁን በሳይንሱም ሰምተነዋል ይህንን ነገር ብዙ ጊዜ ጸበል ምናምን ሲደረግ ውሃ ላይ ነው የሚደረገው እና ለምንድን ነው ሲባል ውሃ የትዝታ ሚሞሪ እንትን አለው የሆነ ነገርን የማስቀመጥ የትዝታ አቅም አለው ይባላል እና በሳይንስም የሆነ ቴስት አድርገውት እንትን ተብሏል በደንብ ፕሩፍ ተደርጓል ምናምን ይባላል እና ያን የሚባለውን ቅዱስ ቃል ይዞ ማቆየት ስለሚችል ከዛ ያን ውሃ ስንጠጣው ያንን ባህሪ የበለጠ በተሻለ ከሌላ ቁስ ይልቅ በተሻለ ሊዋሃደው ይችላል እና የበለጠ ኢምፓክት ይኖረዋል ምናምን አለ ልክ በተመሳሳይ መልኩ ልክ እንደዚህ አይነት እጾች አሉ እና እነዛ እጾች ላይ የእጹ ባህሪ ይታወቃል እና ያ ድጋም በሚደገምበት ጊዜ የእጹ ባህሪ ይቀየራል ከዛ ከአንተ ጋር ሲዋሃድ አንተ ላይ የሆነ ቢሄቪራል ቼንጅ ሊሆን ይችላል እና ስፔሲፊካሊ ያወራኝ እሱ ደግሞ ኢንቴሊጀንስ ነው ኢንቴሊጀንሱን መጨመርም ስለሚፈልግ እዛ ላይ ኤክሳይትድ ስለሆነ አም ገነ ጎ ፎር ኢት እያለኝ ነበር እና ኦኬ ነው እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮች አሉ ጀስት ቴክ ዲስ አዝ ዋን ኤግዛምፕል እና እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮች አሉ እና እኔ አሁን የቱ ጋር ልጀምር ነው ያኔ በቃ ገረመኝና where do you start looking for this kind of things ነው ያልኩት I mean it's information አይደለ ስናስበው እኮ መረጃ እኮ ነው የሆነ ካለማወቅ የሆነ ነገር ፈትሸህ ወደ ማወቅ የሚያደርስ ነገር አለ እዚህም ላይ ቢሆን ምንም ይሁን ያ ኮንቴንቱ ግን where do I start ስትል በጣም ኮንፊውዚንግ ነገር አለ የቱ ጋር አሁን ለምሳሌ ፍለጋ ብትጀምር ብዙ ውሸት የሆኑ ነገሮች የሚያደናብሩ ነገሮችን ማየት አይቀርም እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮች ይኖራሉ እና አሁን አንተ ያነሳውን ሀሳብ ደግሞ በዚህ ኮንቴክስት ብንቃኘው ብያስቤ
ኢንትረስቲንግ ኦኬ ብስሪ ያነሳኸው እንትን የሚል biased እንሆናለን towards to something that we are more interested or more aligned or something that we prefer or support any information ሲመጣ I don't know challenge ማድረግ ስለማንፈልግ ወይ ማንችል ሊሆን ይችላል at that moment we're most of the time inclined to believe what we think is the truth kind of instead of really challenging ourselves and then figure out እኩሊ ትሬት አናረጋቸውም whatever the informations are እኔ ራሱ አጋጥሞኛል ማለት ነው ከዛ I will align it with your አማን ያነሳው የት እናገኛቸዋለን ይሄ ኢንፎርሜሽን ያለው እኔ አሁን I will get back to war on ትግራይ because recently እሱ ነው በጣም አፌክት ያደረገኝና and I learned a lot ብዬ ነው የማስበው because of this war this couple of years, almost 2 years ሊሆን ነው and there was so much information it's like የብዙ አመት ታሪክ I had to know በትንሽ ጊዜ so that figure out ለማድረግ what's happening because all of a sudden out of the blue ነው war ላይ ያገኘሁት ራሴ when I wake up there's war and then I don't know what to do so and ብዙ ኢንፎርሜሽን ይመጣ ነበር I was reading ምናምን ከዛ ግን I was not in a position or I was not voluntary even to hear ከዚህ የሚመጣው ኢንፎርሜሽን ከዚህ I was not voluntary to hear anything I was just listening to የምፈልገው በቃ ዋር እንዲያቆም ነው የምፈልገው። ኤንድ እሱ የሚያበረታታ ስለ እሱ የሚያወራ ሪሌትድ የሆነ ይሄ ብቻ ነው የምሰማው፣ ይሄ ብቻ ነው ማወራው፣ መስማትም የምፈልገው ይሄ ብቻ ነው ኢንተርቴን የማደርገው። ሌላ ነገር የሚያወራኝ ከመጣ ሰው I don't even have the patience. Yeah, I want that person to acknowledge that what is wrong እንዲህ ምናምን እንዲል ከኔ ጋር እንዲሆን ቶሎ ነው የምፈልገው because I'm in so much pain that I want that person to just understand me and be on my side kind of. But also because I believe that what's happening is wrong ብዬ already እንትን ስላደረኩት ስቴት አድርጌ ጨርሻለሁ and then I want that person to be able to accept it the way I did accept it that way. So ለዛን ሰው ልክ ነው አይደለም የራሱ እንትን ሆኖ ግን አሁን ወጣ ብዬ እዚህ ላይ ሳስበው ግን I was not really listening ለሌላ ቮለንቲር አልነበርኩም። ለእኔ የሚመስለኝ የምቀበለው የምፈልገው ብቻ ነበር ሰማይ ነበረው ማለት ነው። And when I come with that mindset, when I come to where do you find the information then ካልክ for me what I did was I just dropped everything, almost everything. I used to advocate በጣም ምናምን so ቀነስኩ then I start to exercise more የሆነ ስፒሪቹዋል አክቲቪቲዎች ማድረግ ምናምን and then ከዛ የነበርኩበት so በቃ suffocated አይነት እንትን I just wanna let go and then okay what's happening ብዬ በክሊር ማይንድ ደግሞ ማለት because in that situation my emotions and the facts and everything it's mixed መለየት አልችልም kind of. So yeah, so I don't know መፈለጉ ላይ for me I just let go and then I try to step back and then start to see things like okay እንደዛ ነገር so that's what I did.
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy. It's a good example. I think what you mentioned, and it comes back to what I said. Like the first thing that you have to do is internal assessment. Look into yourself and try to find the baseline where you stand. Like to clear up every bias that you have. I don't think that's possible because yeah, we're just normally biased, you know, because we do have opinions about certain things and we do like to expose it to people. But it's important to at least assess that, to know that it's inside you, to sort of understand the biases that you have, especially to very controversial issues that we have nowadays. Mentioned as you said, like the Tigray issue now. So I think as a first step, that's really necessary, and it's really in its own way, it's sort of freeing, a freeing movement, a freeing action in its own way, because what a certain bias like this in a controversial issue does to you is, it's mostly it attracts the dense amount of information that like overwhelms you with such things. It can be negative. It can also be positive in a wrong way, but it sort of overwhelms everything that surrounds you, and it becomes an echo chamber of things that you just want to listen about. And that's a very bad way to sort of start such an inquisition into something controversial at this point. So yeah, as a starting point, it's really nice to have that, and I really admire that you did that in a way. So, but then afterwards, I think something we don't. I mean, nowadays it's being done a lot, and I think a good point to mention some of the alternative approaches to investigating information by itself is, I mean, just go out of your way. Just go out of the similar circles you surround yourself. Like if you're looking at only Facebook, go out of that and see what the rest of the people are saying. And like notice your bias and then go the opposite way and listen what the other people are saying. And it's really an adventure by itself, because you see how people perceive certain things. You might be wrong yourself, you never know, or you might be right even, but you will be able to see how people perceive things and how people understand things and how information is being disseminated out there. Especially if you, for example, a good dichotomy in this sense is when you observe how the alternative media, such as the Facebook and the YouTube and the Twitter, uh, gives attention to a certain topic, and then when you see the mainstream media gives attention to that, it's quite a drastic difference between the two. while the alternative media goes for, the social justice kind of approach, where people take hold of their own truths in their own way. And then when you go to the mainstream media, it's sort of corporate in its own way. They take things in a bigger framework where everything has to be politicized. So even looking between the two sides of things, it's really fascinating. And it's one of the things I'm enjoying doing nowadays because of certain weird topics. I don't want to mention it now, but there are like nowadays there are trending topics that really fascinate you and how you look about things in terms of information. So I think that's also a good way to approach it in a way. Man, you have something to add to that?
I picked two amazing points from you guys, and it's really, I mean, but I'm relevant. No, but the first one is emotional. Emotion ጋር የተያዘ ነገር ይመስለኛል. You have to be able to separate mostly your emotion from the fact, because when you're emotional about something, when you're super excited about something, you're bound to be biased by a few things, and now you have to be able to stand and step back and look at the situation from a neutral ground. The emotion should be helpful to you instead of being distracted. Um, and that emotional content will change your perception, whatever is coming in. Like, you're gonna start interpreting it in your own way. No, you'll start just pick only the things you want. Now, if it's not something you want to hear, you just push it away. Perhaps there's something important in it. The second one is, I think it's more related to habit. Um, yeah, we get accustomed to one thing, and we're not ready to check if there are ሌሎች አልተርኔቲቭ የሆኑ ነገሮች እንዳሉ እንኳን ለማየት እንቸገራለን እና ከተመቸን ኤሪያ ወጥተን ሌሎቹን ኤክስፕሎር ለማድረግ እንቸገራለን። በጣም የሚገርም ቱልሴት ይመስለኛል እነዚህ ሁለቱን መያዝ። I mean, I will definitely use this for my investigation. I've said, where do I start? Then I will have to keep this in mind when I go, like, where is my excitement? What does it mean to step back from that excitement and try to look at the things neutrally የሚለውን ነገር እና where was I looking እስካሁን ድረስ ራሱ ሚን አሁን ስለ ሀቢት ስታወራ ራሱ የቱ ጋር እየፈለግኩ ነበር እያልኩ ነው። ፕሮባብሊ ሁለት ምናምን ኤሪያዎች ነው ቢሆኑ እነዛ ነገሮች እና ያላየኋቸው በጣም ብዙ ገጽታዎች ይኖራሉ። እነሱንም መፈተሽ እንዳለብኝ እንትን ብያለሁ። I really thank you guys for this.
Interesting. Actually, I just remember that ማን ሲያወራ ነው የሰማሁት ብቻ he says like we have the whole universe for ourselves, but we choose to pick only one or two, and then we stick to that in our life ማለት ነው. And then like our like throughout our life, we just focus on the things that we pick and then leave. Yeah, some good. There are a lot of things good to it, but also, I mean, the whole universe is ours, and it's also okay to be open. But when you talk about the investigation, I also, for example, what I did after I dropped everything and then tried to step back was ትክክል እንደዛው like reaching out to people. አልፈልግም አልሰማም ያልኳቸውን መስማት because then እንዴት እዚህ ደረስን የሚል አንደርስታንድ ማድረግ ፈለግኩኝ። ቢካዝ አሁን ሶሉሽን ራሱ ፕሮፖዝ ለማድረግ ሰስቴይነብል መሆን አለበት። ኢት ሹድንት ቢ ሰምቲንግ ዳትስ ጎይንግ ቱ ትራፕ አስ ባክ አገን ወደ አለንበት አሁን ፎር ዛት ቱ ሃፕን I need to understand where this is coming from and what it is. ከዛ then once I step back I was able to hear others as well. ከዛ እንደዚህ መስማት ስጀምር ምናምን then even if ምንድነው ፕሮብሌሞቹ ትናንሽ ሆነው ተጠራቅመው በጣም ሂውጅ የሆኑ እውነት ታገኛቸዋለህ ማለት ነው። አይ ዶንት ኖ the more you understand the more እንደዚህ ብዙ ታገኛለህ። of course I still have a lot to learn ግን ሪች አውት አድርገህ or የራስ ኢንቨስቲጌሽን እንደዚህ ስታደርግ is more easy to understand and also to be able to suggest a solution. ኢቨን እንደ ከልት አይነት ሙቭመንት ክሬት ያደርጋል ማለት ነው። እንደዚህ ኢንፎርሜሽን ዲስሚኔት አድርጎ ምናምን ኦልሬዲ especially when these informations are coming from people you trust. አሁን ያ ልጅ ያልከው he get that information of ይሄ እንደዚህ ድጋም ምናምን ትግበርሎስ and then የሆነ genius or something. He get that information from someone he trusts, and it's hard to let it go because he trusts that person. እኔ አሁን ከቤት የሆነ ነገር ቢነግሩኝ በጣም ነው የምወዳቸው ሶ it's most likely that I will take the information እና ብዙ ነገር ከዛ ወደዚህ ሳመጣው ደግሞ ወደ ዋሩ ያስገባን ምናምን አጠገባችን ያለው ሰው የሆነ ነገር ብሎ ሲነግረን እንዴት ከየት አመጣው እንዴት ማለት ፕሩፍ ምናምን አንጠይቅም እውነት እንደዚህ ሆነ እንዴ ምናምን that's and then we carried away example actually recently ምን አጋጠመኝ ምን አስታወስኩኝ I was at school and then this guy came because I stayed back then I started reaching out to people አይደለ ከዛ he was from other part of Ethiopia and then አወራሁት ሰላም አልኩት ምናምን እና ስለ ኮንዲሽኑ አሁን ያለው ሲቹዌሽን ማውራት ጀመርን ከዛ እንደዚህ ኢትዮጵያ ዲስትሮይ እናደርጋለን ብሎ ምናምን ብሎ የሆነ ሰው አንስቶ እንትን አለኝ ኦኬ እኔ ብዙ አንብቤ ያለው ቪዲዮዎች አይቻለሁ ኦፍ that person but አልሰማሁትም እንደዛ ሲል ከዛ ማን ያለው አልኩት defend ለማድረግ እንትን አላልኩም because I cannot be sure and that's what I learned to not do that because I have to hear him and I understand if it's true if it's fact or not if he bring me proof or something then he said ከእንትን ሚዲያ ሰምቸው then okay can check እናድርገው ኦንላይን የተባለው ምናምን ብንፈልግ የለም ማለት ነው ኢንፎርሜሽን ከዛ ያን ሰው ግን ሲቀበለው ማለት ተቀበለው ብቻ ሳይሆን መጥቶ ራሱ ለእኔም እየነገረኝ ነው I only wonder lesson ሰው ነግሮ እንደሆነ ያህን ኢንፎርሜሽን ማለት ነው so ይሄ አሁን ቦይል አፕ አድርጎ it can actually turn into something bad ማለት ነው just because we hear it from people that we think are telling us the truth probably ያ ሚዲያ ላይ ያቀረበው ሰውዬም ከሆነ ካመነው ሰው ሊሆን ይችላል so yeah it goes like that
and now when was the turning point where you were like this is the turning point I started questioning እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮችን question ማድረግ ጀመርኩኝ እና ሀዜን የሆነ ቀይሮታል የምትይው ፖይንት አለ ስፔሲፊካሊ
I think the very beginning was አቃተኝ አይደለ በጣም vulnerable ሆንኩኝ መስራት አልችልም ምናምን በቃ አድቮኬት ነው ማድረገው ግን መጀመሪያ it was like with full hope that the war will stop that I started advocating አይደለ ከዛ ግን it was not like that የሆነ ሲጀምር ፖለቲክስ ብዙ አንደርስታንዲንግ አልነበረኝም አሁን ኢንተርናሽናል ኮሚኒቲው የራሱ ኢንተረስት ያያል ምናምን እንደዚህ ሳይሆን በቃ የሆነ ሰው የተጎዳ ካየ you just help right so that's where I was coming from like everyone is nice everyone is kind ምናምን humanity ምናምን የሚለው ስሜት but then መስራት አልችልም መተኛት አልችልም properly አልበላም ምናምን so things were not okay for me so then at least I start stepping back so that graduate ካረኩ በኋላም ስራም ላይ ፎከስ እንዳደረግ ምናምን then I need to step back just so I protect myself or to think clearly to come up with different solutions ምናምን ማለት ነው then the moment መቀነስ ጀምር ይሄ too much information ከትዊተር or other media ስማገኘው I think that's done ከዛ ደግሞ more exercise ማድረግ ስጀምር and those spiritual activities to just ራሴን ለማረጋጋት ማለት ነው so the main point was I think when I step back a bit and then take some time off because then ይሄ እኮ እንዲህ ቢሆን ይሄ እኮ እንዲህ ቢሆን then I start to talk with myself instead of the people in the media or the things that are written there
But one of the things that I wanted to mention in this regard is I think usually like as human beings we have tendency and like everything simplify yamarag because otherwise life becomes complicated so especially when it comes to information we have this tendency to simplify things and that's useful in its aspect I think it's more useful in the sense that especially when it's too much information that we're taking in so then we simplify it to a certain or perhaps category or box and it's useful because otherwise it's a bit overwhelming to take everything it's how we conceptualize the world so I think it needs a sort of balance between the two don't just discredit that you can simplify things because otherwise I can understand it can be difficult. Again, don't also just simplify things to categories such as an ideology, for instance. That I would think that's the most dangerous thing to the worst thing that you can do in terms of taking information. I think it's very dangerous to take information as a part of an ideology, because that's where it becomes, as you said, a cult direction in a way. So I think there is a balance between the two, but we have to also be careful in treading the line, or treading the line between just simplifying things into categories or labels, and also uh, identifying our biases and looking into ourselves. So I wanted to say that before we continued on.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I have a very good example here. ዛሬ ብዙ ኤግዛምፕል እያነሳው ነው መሰለኝ እና በጣም ማች እያደረገልኝ ስለሆነ ነው። ሪል ኤክስፔሪየንስ አሁን ይሄ መለየት የምንለው በሁለቱ መካከል ላይኑን ማስመር የምንለውን ነገር ማለት ነው። ሲምስ ላይክ የሆነ ሲያጋጥምህና በጣም ሲከብድህ ኢቨን በጣም ትልልቅ ውሳኔዎች ከባባድ ውሳኔዎች ህይወት ላይ እንድትወስድ ሲያደርግህ እና ካለፈ በኋላ እንዲህ ማድረግ እችል ነበረ ስትል ነው የምታየው ክብደቱን ማለት ነው። እና እኔ ምን ገጠመኝ እኔ ልክ ወደ ሆላንድ ለትምህርት ልሄድ አንድ ሳምንት ሲቀረኝ ኦልሬዲ ቲኬት ቆርጫለሁ። የሆነ ሴሚናር አለ የምከታተለው፣ በየሳምንቱ ነው የምከታተለው። በጣም ሱፐር ኤክሳይትድ ሆኜ ልነግራችሁ አልችልም። ፓሽኔን ማለት ነው፣ እዛ ነገር ላይ ያለኝን ፓሽን በጣም በቃ ልቤን ስጥት አድርጌ ነበር የምከታተለው። በጣም ነበር የምወደው እና ልክ ጀስት እንደ ኔክስት ዊክ ልበር this guy አለ ኮርሱን የሚሰጠን አለ እና he's talking about a lot of stuff and ሀብዬ ነው የምሰማው በቃ እና the words he was mentioning even ያኔ ልክ ፐርሰናሊ ለእኔ እየነገረኝ ነው የሚመስለኝ ያኔ እና I was like okay I think I shouldn't go ይሄ ነው እና ኔክስት ዊክ እንደዚህ አይነት ነገር እንጀምራለን እያለ ነው ያኔ ማለት ቲዮሪቲካል የሆነው ፓርት አልቆ ፕራክቲካል ነገር ሊጀምሩ የሆነ ከከተማ ወጣ ብሎ አንድ ቦታ አለ እና የሀሳብ ልምምድ ነው የሀሳብ ልምምድ ነው ግን ሀሳብን ሀየር ከሆኑ ፋክልቲዎች ጋር ኮኔክት ማድረግ ምናምን የሚል ኮምፖነንት አለው። በጣም ኤክሳይቲንግ ነው ውስጡ ያለው ነገር ማለት ለማይንድ በጣም ኤክሳይቲንግ የሆኑ ነገሮች አሉት እና ሊጀምሩ ነው ማለት ኦኬ ቲዮሪውን እስካሁን ድረስ ተምቻለሁ አም ፋሲኔትድ ኔክስት ዊክ ፕራክቲካሉ ሊጀምሩ ነው እነዚህ ሰዎች and I'm flying out oh my goodness ማለት I was listening to their radio programs የሁለት ዓመት የሬዲዮ ፕሮግራም ነው የሰማሁት በጣም ከመውደድ የተነሳ ሀሳቡን እና ፎሎ እያደረግኩ ነው ሬዲ እና ሊጀምሩ ነው ይላሉ። ልክ ከዛ ሴሚናር እንደወጣሁኝ ቀበና ተራራ አለ፣ በጣም ትልቅ ተራራ። ቤት መሄድ አልቻልኩም። የምሬን ነው የምላችሁ ምን ያህል እንደገዘፈብኝ ማለት ነው። ሄድኩኝ ተራራው ላይ ቤት መመለስ አልቻልኩም። I have to decide this thing but I don't know what to decide። መቅረት ፈልጌያለሁ፣ ብዙ ፕሬሸሮች አሉ ደግሞ እንዳልቀር። በቃ ወክ አደርጋለሁ፣ ጨልሟል ምናምን ምናምን። በጣም ጭንቅላቴ ላይ የነበረውን ውጥረት አስታውሰዋለሁ እና ከበደኝ ለመወሰን ምን መወሰን እንዳለብኝ በጣም ከበደኝ። ተመለስኩኝ፣ ተረጋጋው፣ ካልም ዳውን አይ ሚን ሰው ብቻውን አስቦ አይችልም። ጀስት ጋር ሪላክስ ምናምን አልኩት ራሴን። ኦልሬዲ ቲኬት ቆርጠሃል መሄድ አለብህ ራሴን አይ ዌንት። ከዛ እዛም ሄጄ እከታተለዋለሁ ፕሮግራማቸውን። ሁሌ ነው የምሰማው ባይክ እያደረግኩኝ፣ ሁሌ ኢርፎን ሰክቼ እነሱ ፕሮግራም በለቀቁ ቁጥር ሰማቸዋለሁ። ሁሌ ሰማለሁ። በኋላ ተመልሼም እዚህ ኮኔክት ለማድረግ ሞከርኩኝ። ምን አየው ግን የሚናገሩት እውነት ላይ ምንም እዛ ላይ ኮሜንት ማድረግ ሁላ አልፈልግም። ኢትስ አሜዚንግ ቢዩቲፉል ስታፍ። ግን እኔ የወሰድኩበት መንገድ ግን በጣም እንትን ነበረ፣ ኮምፕሊትሊ አግዝፌው ነው። ምክንያቱም ሀሳብን የሚያህል ነገር እየተወራ በራስህ ውስጥ ነው በደንብ ኤክስፕሎር የሚደረገው፣ በራስህ ውስጥ ነው የሚፈተሸው እንጂ የሆነ ሰው እንደዚህ ይፈጥራል ብለህ የምትጠብቀው ነገር አይደለም እና በኋላ ብዙ ትችቶችም ይመጣሉ ሂደቱ ላይ። ኦኬ what are these guys talking about ምናምን የሚሉ ጥያቄ እኔም ላይ ይፈጠራሉ፣ ሰውም ላይ ይፈጠራሉ። ከዛ ቀረብ ብለህ ስታየው ሞር ለካ ራስ ላይ የምትሰራው ነገር ይበልጣል። ግን ኤክስፔክቴሽን ምን ያደርግሃል እዛ ጋር በጣም ሪላይ እንድታደርግ ያንን ኢንፎርሜሽን ዝም ብለህ ብላይንድ እንድትቀበል ሁሉን ነገር ቴስት ሳታደርግ ምናምን በጣም ብዙ ፈተናዎች ነው ያሉብን። የሆነ ነገር ስንፈልገው እና ስንገበገብ ለዛ ነገር በጣም ብዙ ፈታኝ ነገሮች ነው ያሉብን እና ከዛ እንዴት ቀስ እያልኩ እንደወጣው ሳስበው ትልቅ ልዩነት ይታየኛል። ከባድ ነበረ። ውዳይ አሁን ሳይ አዳዲስ ነገሮችን ሳይ ያለኝ ግንዛቤ እና ያኔ የነበረኝ ይለያያል። አሁን ግን እንደዚህ አይነት ነገር አሁን በጣም ከልምድ የሚመጣ ይመስለኛል። ስቲል there's a lot to learn ግን ኢትስ አ ቢግ ስኪል ብዬ ስላሰብኩና በጣም ፕራክቲካል ስለሆነልኝ መጥቀስ ፈልጌ ነው።
Yeah, I think that's a nice example. It's really captures everything, and something related to that. A common, like, especially in the lawyer world, like in attorney and legislation and things like that. One of the good example that I can mention is how people can insert an argument to another person's sort of mentality in general. And the way it can happen is the easiest way that you can do it is to allow the other person to reach the conclusion that you have by themselves. It's the easiest way that you can do it, because if someone reaches a conclusion by themselves, they think that it's the ultimate truth for them because they achieved it. So I think that's part of what happened to you in a way, because you reached that conclusion yourself, although the conclusion might not be the intention of the people that you were interested in, but you
Absolutely.
yeah, you reached that conclusion yourself, and it's very powerful to do so, and then it becomes sort of conceptualization that you have of the world, and it's very powerful. And I think that's something we have to really critically look into. It can be very damaging at some point, but it's also powerful in discourse, in especially in arguments, in winning an argument, I would say. So I think it's a good example of that. If that relates very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
እንደ ኮቺንግ ማለት ነው አይ ቲንክ ኢን ዲፍረንት ሜንቶርሽፕ ምናምን ኮቺንግ ይሉታል you don't tell the person what it is or ምናምን you just help them get there so ከዛ በኋላ once they get there they own it it's theirs so you cannot shake this person so
Yeah.
it will take so much time than ያን አንለርን ለማድረግ ወይ ሀሳቡን ለመቀየር ምናምን then it would take
Yeah.
forever of that person then yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Yes.
I think that's amazing
I mean, there was needed a partly some sort of self confidence ያስፈልጋል because በራስህ ላይ እምነት ማለት በጣም ትልቅ ነገር ነው። በጣም ወሳኝ ነገር ነው አክቹዋሊ። ምክንያቱም ሁሉንም ነገር ኤክስፔሪንስ የምናደርገው በውስጣችን ስለሆነ በራስ ላይ መፈተን አለበት፣ መፈተሽም አለበት። እኛ ጋር ያለውም ነገር ምንድን ነው የሚለው ነገር መፈተሽ አለበት። አለበለዚያ የሆነ ጥግ ላይ ትቆምና አድናቂ ወይ አድማቂ ትሆናለህ፣ ወይ ደግሞ ያልያዝከውን እውነት እንዳያዝክ ሊሰማ ይችላል። እና በጣም ብዙ ነገሮች አሉ። በጣም ብዙ ሰው ደግሞ ብዙ ነገር ነው የሚለው፣ ከልምዱ ተነስቶ ነው የሚያወራው ያ ሰው። አንተ ጋር ካላገኘው ያንን ነገር ግን እንትን ትሆናለህ፣ ሚዛናዊ አትሆንም፣ ወደ አንዱ ታጋድላለህ፣ ውሳኔዎችህም ትክክል ላይሆኑ ይችላሉ ምናምን እና በጣም መፈተሽ ስትፈትሽ በራስህ ላይ እምነትም ማሳደር ተገቢ ይመስለኛል። በራስህ ላይ እምነት ማለት ይሄ ዝም ብሎ አጉል የሆነ ጉራ ምናምን ሳይሆን እኔ ጋር ያለው ነገር ነው ወሳኙ ነገር፣ እኔ ጋር የፈጠረው ነገር ነው፣ በእኔ ውስጥ የተፈተሸው ነገር ይበልጣል የሚለው መረጃው እኔ ጋር መጥቶ በእኔ እይታ ምን ይመስላል፣ በጣም አግዝፌዋለሁ፣ ከልክ በላይ ሰፍቶ የሆነ ሆፕ እያደረግኩ ነው እዛ ጋር ኦቨር ኤክስፔክቴሽን አለ፣ ወይስ ደግሞ አቅልየዋለሁ በጣም ደግሞ ዝም ብዬ ንቄ ያለፍኩት ነገር ነው ምናምን። ይሄ አሁን በአንተ በራስ ውስጥ የምትፈትሸው ነገር ነው እና
Yeah. Yeah.
do you think that needs to be guided though or in do you think these people needs to figure it out on their own because then you የሆነ ነገር ክሊክ አድርገህ then ራሳቸው ፊገር አውት እንዲያደርጉ or ደግሞ ሪች ያደረጉት ኮንክሉዥን አለ or something probably that's the conclusion you want them to take or not in the ያደረገው the result might be different from your vision or so what do you think because at the end of the day we don't know what that result will be and how it will affect the society in general or the whole universe I don't know so how do you see that
I guess it's a question towards me. Yeah, I think it's something that you can teach. ማስተማር የሚቻል ይመስለኛል. I don't think it's outside of that. But still, it's within the responsibility of the person to achieve that or to at least assess that to that level. it's difficult ማለት even አስተምረሽ so like it will resort to that easily because it's the simpler approach. It's too complex to see the world in such a diverse manner. It's so hard for our brain to manage. It's a survival mechanism on its own, in its own good way. That is, of course, but it's still a skill that you can teach people to think both logically and emotionally, because we do need both of those things. We do have our instincts that emotionally dispose us to something good in nature, good in ourselves, to sort of understand things in a good way. But it's also possible that we miss the point that we're looking at, and then just direct ourselves aside from the facts and just believe something else completely. So I think we have to put those together in some way that you can teach a person how to be perhaps like emotionally intelligent. And I think it's a good combination of the two things. I'm not creating that word; it's already out there. But emotional intelligence, because intelligence is sort of a logical description of that, which kind of conflicts with emotional things, because emotion doesn't usually align with logic. But emotional intelligence, in its way, it combines the two things, and it gives you the potential to sort of look at things both emotionally and as well as logically. So it can be taught, I believe.
ለእኔ አሁን ለርን በደንብ እንደውም እንዴት ነው በተለይ ሪል ኤክስፔሪንሶች ደግሞ በደንብ ያስተምሩሃል ማለት ስለተነገረ አይዲያው ልትይዘው ትችላለህ። ኦኬ አይ ሃቭ ቱ ዱ ዲስ ብለህ ልትይዘው ትችላለህ። ግን በደንብ ደግሞ የምትማረው ከተግባራዊ ከሆነው ነገር ይመስለኛል። ለምሳሌ ኢሞሽናል በጣም ትልቁም እንደ የኛ ህብረተሰብ ላይ ትልቅ ቻሌንጅ የሆነብን ነገር የሚመስለኝ በትልቅ የኢንፎርሜሽን ዌቭ ውስጥ ኢሞሽናል ኢንቴሊጀንስን ጠብቀህ በህዝብ ሳትሆን መሄድ መቻል በጣም አሁን እየፈተነን ያለ ነገር ነው። እዛ ፈተና ላይ ደግሞ ማለፍ ግዴታችን ነው ማለት ይጠበቅብናል። አሁን ለምሳሌ ሁላችንም ይነካናል አይደል? አሁን ሚሚ ስለ ትግራይ ዋር ስታወራ እኔን የነካበትን መንገድ አውቀዋለሁ በምን መልኩ እንደነካኝ እና የሆነ ጊዜ ላይ ራሴን ትንሽ ገለል ማድረግ እፈልግ ስለነበረ ከእንደዚህ አይነት ሀሳቦች የማስተናግድበትን ነገር እያቀለልኩት ይሁን እንዴ ብዬ ተጨንቄ ከአባቴ ጋር አውርቼበታለሁ። አንድ ጊዜ እንዲህ እያወራን እኔ የምልህ ይሄ ነገር አሳሰበኝ አልኩትና እንዴት ነው ማለት ምንድነው ሚዛናዊ ለመሆን ነበር ስሞክር የነበረው ያኔ። ግን ራሴን ከማህበረሰባዊ ማንነት ያገለልኩት ሆኖ ተሰማኝ አንድ ጊዜ። ኦኬ ይህንን ማህበረሰባዊ ማንነት አልተቀበልኩትም እንዴ የሚጎል እንደ ማህበረሰባዊ ማንነት የሚጎልብኝ ነገር አለ እንዴ? ልክ አሁን እንዴ እጅ የለኝም እንዴ ሌሎች ሰዎች እጅ አላቸው እንደምትለው አለ አይደለ? እኔ ብሔር የለኝም ማለት ነው። ሌሎች እንደዛ በሚያዩበት መንገድ ማየት አልፈልግም። እኔ እንደዛ ማየት አልፈልግም። በተለይ አቅጣጫ ማየት የምፈልግ ትክክል አይደለም እንዴ ብዬ አወራሁት እና የሰጠኝ መልስ በቃ ያኔ የሰጠኝ መልስ ለእኔ ብቻ ደስ ብሎኛል። ምንድን ያለኝ እንደ ራስህ ነው የምትሆነው ሁሌ እንጂ ምን ያሳስበሃል ነገር ነው ያለኝ ያኔ። አጥግቦኛል መልሱ። ግን ለእኔ እሱ ጊዜ ሁሉም ቻሌንጅ ቢደረገው እዛም ጋር ዌቭ አለ ሊገፋ ይፈልጋል። እዚህም ጋር ደግሞ ቀለል አድርጎ ማየቱም ራሱ ይከብድሃል። እንዴት ነው ትላለህ? ምክንያቱም ፊቴን ማድረግ ትፈልጋለህ አይደለ ብዙ ጊዜ እና የሁሉም ሰው አመለካከት እንደዚህ ሲጫንህ የትኛው ጋር ነው የኔ ባላንስ ያለው ብሎ መፈለግ ኢትስ ላይፍ ስኪል ነው አይደለ? ሚዛናዊ ሆኜ ይህንን ነገር እንዴት ነው የማየው የሚለውን ህይወት ራሱ ተጭኖ የሚያስተምርህ ነገር ነው። ምክንያቱም ወደድክም ጠላህም መነካት አይቀርም እና ስትነካ ደግሞ የቱ ጋር ነው ያለሁት ብለህ ትፈትሻለህ እና ኢትስ ሳምቲንግ ቱ ቢ ለርንድ ዴፊኒትሊ ከሁለቱም አንደኛ ከመስማት ነው፣ ሁለተኛ ደግሞ በተግባር ደግሞ ህይወታችን ላይ ከሚገጥመን ነገር በደንብ እንማረው ይመስለኛል።
ኢንትረስቲንግ ፖይንት ባይ ዘ ዌይ ኢን ዴር አሁን ያልከው ወይ ቹዝ ትገደዳለህ ነገር ኤዘር ቢ ኢን ዲስ ሳይድ ኦን ዲስ ሳይድ ኢንዲፐንደንት ቲንኪንግ ምንም ስፖርት አይደረግም። ብዙ ጊዜ ሳይ ዩር ላይክ ትገለላለህ ከማህበረሰቡ ካይንድ ኦፍ የራሴ የምትለው ነገር እንትን ካል then you're considered I don't know something else. You have to either pick one kind of.
Yeah.
You just can't be you. That's yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to add, but
Okay.
yeah, just to conclude, I guess I think it's always possible to to have a baseline and then to establish yourself in a sort of an unbiased manner. And I think it's also possible to develop an emotional intelligence towards these things, most probably with practice in life in general. And I think most importantly, by listening to people and diversifying your source of information. I think that's the most important thing that you can do. So I would say start from that. Start looking from yourself, and then open up your mind about opposing ideas, and look into something that conflicts with how you think about the world. It's really nice to explore that either way, even if it doesn't allow you to sort of confirm whatever you have in your mind. But just start from that, and then build up from that, and you will learn much more than anything else. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yes, kudos to that.
Do you have
That's
any conclusion ideas?
um, mm, but Basri has said it already.
Okay, interesting. I like what your dad said. راسنا متهونو, right?
እንደራስ
እንደ
ከም
ራስና
ባዕልኻ
ምትሆን.
እምበር ከም ባዕልኻ እምበር ከመይ ዳ ይኸውን ኮይኑ ነገርና ያለኝ ያኒ እንደውም ቃል በቃል ከም ባዕልኻ እምበር ከመይ ይኸውን
Interesting. هم بعلهم خنو is our nano mind
yes.
melody. Yeah, be yourself. In that, make sure to be, yeah, humility inuran. Let's be kind for one another because we don't know where that person is coming from. We like what, how, and what kind of challenge that person is going through. So it would be nice to always be kind and have sympathy. Yeah, I think we'll end our program with those words. Thank you so much for tuning in, and then put your feedbacks. Please tell us what you think. Yeah,
Please let us know.
yeah,
We'd like to
it'd
hear
be
from you.
nice. Yeah, thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
ciao
Bye.
ciao
Bye.